Yep.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man.
Shadows sleeping in the dead of night. I light the match, they fear my fight. Street I flicker like a war zone flare. They see me rise, but they won't dare. Some man cracks under my stride. Whispers chase me, they collide. Them dreams heavy like gold chains. Every star on my streets my name. Be legendary, feel the fire in your chest. No second guessing, this is your test. Be legendary, break the cage and run. The crown's...
Yep, that's right. We want you to be legendary, and that's why you're tuned into this show, so that you can call yourself amongst the ranks of those who are legendary. In the Hoosier Legends Weekly Podcast, I am Justin Spears, joined, as always, by Mr. Mike Walden. Mike, what is going on this evening?
Hey, what's up? Good day here. First day of finals at Tri-West was wrapped up. Got to see a little 8th grade basketball action again. This time it was Tri-West versus Monrovia. Tri-West got the win, but Monrovia seems like a really well-coached team, so they look like they have some couple really good athletes coming up the ranks there. So Monrovia should be set, here in a couple of years with those kids coming up. But besides that, man, everything's going well. How about you?
Good. Yeah, same thing. Survived first day of finals for us. I know finals are probably hitting for a lot of other districts this week as well, and juggling that along with still maintaining some athletic contests here this week. So we're really excited as we previewed a little bit. If you caught our post up on X, formerly known as Twitter, we talked about a format change to the show, just trying to mix it up a little bit, see what kind of feedback we get. What essentially we're going to be doing here kind of moving forward is we transitioned the bulk of the show where we do score rundowns for each school for the sports that are in season, transferring that to what we call the rundown. And essentially we'll do that 1 to 2 times per week, and we will post those hopefully somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the amount of results that we need to get through. We still want to make sure we give proper credit and call out the great things that individual athletes are doing, where we have those statistics and results available. You might have caught the one that I put up on Twitter this morning. Again, we want it to be still thorough and in depth, and so we're just going to kind of remove that from the bulk of this show, which is now going to become more of an open format to give Mike and I a little bit more opportunity to banter back and forth, a little bit more informal, not so scripted, have some topics that maybe are on our mind, relevant things that we've seen, noticed. And of course, as always, any kind of viewer input. So if you are a fan of the show, if you catch us every week, please don't hesitate. If there's a topic that is on your mind that you'd like to hear us talk about, we would love for you to give us your input too, and we'll talk about it on the show. Absolutely be sure to do that. But we would love to be able to broach those topics that are important to you guys out there as well. We do continue to get great feedback, which is awesome. So we'll continue to share that with us, and we'll continue to try to do what we can to bring you guys great content to help promote and share the good things going on in the Hoosier Legends Conference. So speaking of that, we will kind of give a conference update on standings for some sports. And I know, Mike, you're going to talk about where we currently stand with boys and girls basketball. I do want to give a quick shout out, which I, again, addressed this on the rundown this morning, to the Beech Grove Hornets lady wrestling team, winning the inaugural HLC Women's Ladies Wrestling Championship last Friday night. It was kind of interesting to see it run on a Friday night. But they did run that down there, and the Beech Grove Hornets came away with the team title. So congratulations to those guys down there. Now, for an update on our basketball programs, I will kick it on over to you, Mike.
All right. So boys basketball, still a pretty young season. Beech Grove is still leading the pack with a 2-0, but Triton Central's right there with a 1-0 record in conference play. Tri-West is now 1-1. Speedway 0-1, Indian Creek 0-2, and Monrovia has not played a conference match yet. So when you're looking at overall standings, though, Beech Grove and Triton Central both 4-1. Speedway's 2-2. Monrovia 2-1. Tri-West is 1-2, and Indian Creek is 1-3. So still early season. We'll see how that goes, but right now, I think we kind of predicted, Beech Grove and Triton Central is leading the way, and not surprising. Monrovia 2-1. I think that's the head coach experience coming in and getting some buy-in, so that's good to see them. When we flip it over to the girls' side, Beech Grove is the only undefeated team in the conference right now at 2-0, and then Triton Central and Indian Creek both with 2 wins. Triton Central is 2-1. Indian Creek is 2-2. Monrovia and Tri-West are both 1-1, and then Speedway is 0-3 right now. So when you're looking overall on how the teams are doing, Beech Grove is 8-4. Monrovia is 7-1. Triton Central 6-3. Indian Creek is 5-5, followed by Tri-West, which is 5-4, and then Speedway is 4-6. So very competitive. We got a couple teams that are showing their way, like with Monrovia and the girls' side, 7-1. Beech Grove getting the wins, 8-4. But I think overall, Coach, pretty competitive, pretty balanced conference.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a lot of great stuff going on. I thought about that after I ran through the rundown this morning, and I think you're going to continue to see that competitiveness across the board in all sports this winter. We saw it certainly in the fall as well. So yeah, I think this is really shaping up to be a nice conference, and I'm excited to see how it will only continue to evolve once Greenwood and Shelbyville join. But it's been a lot of fun and exciting, results to be able to read through. Some great individual and team efforts that are being put up out there by HLC teams. So congratulations to everybody up to this point. We did want to take a moment and just, address the situation, the unfortunate tragedy that occurred, because it did relate to the HLC last Friday night between Speedway and Monrovia. During the girls' game, we had the unfortunate situation where referee Jeff Tamarri, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, collapsed and ultimately passed away. I read some accounts, obviously, when it first happened and was reported, they were withholding the name, and then the name came out, and everybody kind of that knew of him personally and the impact that he had in the community with officiating. Can't even imagine for the people in attendance, the athletes, the first responders, but also to obviously his family and friends. Very, very unfortunate situation. Sounds like he was a top-notch human being, right? Which is the most important thing, is that, it sounds like this place has lost a really, really good guy. And then beyond that, the impact that, again, he had in youth sports. And I think, Mike, the thing that I was thinking about with this as I reflected on it is, it gives you, I think, pause to remember that referees obviously are human beings. Behind that whistle, behind the striped shirt, as much as we might sometimes get frustrated, with the way that, officiating occurs in a game where it feels like maybe it's one-sided, lopsided, inconsistent, calls favoring one team, whatever the situation might be, that they're still human beings, right? They're still sons, daughters, husbands, wives, so on. And so I think a situation like that, again, just kind of gave me time to pause and think about that and try to remember that, even as tonight, as I was at a wrestling match, the referee there was, a little different, and I didn't understand some of what he was doing, and it was a little frustrating, but I tried to keep that in my mind as I was, thinking about that. So, again, I just think it's a great reminder that they put a lot of, and look, I mean, struggling to find quality, good referees across the board in different sports. And, the treatment that they get oftentimes is completely unwarranted and unfair. It crosses the line in many instances. So we hopefully can all just kind of keep that in mind. Right.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about I
Hey,
know
Mike.
their history
Unfortunately,
and
you're
what they
you're
bring.
cutting out pretty bad. Sorry. Do you want try again? It was really lagging there at the beginning. Go ahead and try again. Sorry.
Are you going to interrupt me again?
I promise you, I will not. I just want our audience to hear every precious word that you have to offer.
No, when I'm looking through here and thinking about the refs I know and how they are as people, there's the couple that I know I think are really well off. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're doing this just for the $80 or whatever they get paid just to survive. They do it because they love it,
Mhm.
and I think we have to remember that, that Jeff the ref, he was a referee for more than 30 years, and he loved being involved with the community, and this was his calling, and this is how he gave back. Um, and I struggle at times like you did today during wrestling. I did with basketball, and it's unfair that we get to sit in the crowd and judge everything because we get to watch and see different things, and referees are moving, in real time, and they're looking at all these different movements of the kids and where the ball goes and who's stepping out of bounds, and if there's a 3-second violation, especially in middle school and a lot of JV games, you're only getting 2 refs
Mhm.
instead of like in high school where you're having 3. So it's a lot of work, a lot of pressure on those guys. I'm the first one to call them out. But then when I hear other people call them out, I'm just like, okay, I know how that sounds to me. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
maybe I need to like check myself as
Mhm.
well, and I try to
Mhm.
keep a lot of it like just by the people around me who I'm talking to, complaining about different things.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to support them. I want to like say thank you so much for doing this because without you, there's no game. But
Mhm.
some of you shouldn't be refs. Like, is that a bad take? I mean, it's just sometimes like I appreciate you coming out there, but if you don't know the simple rules, and you know what I mean, like maybe we need to have somebody else out there. Man, I feel
Yeah.
bad saying that, but I just feel like sometimes it's the truth. Sometimes you're going to get a bad referee.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get yeah, that's how it is in every walk of life, I mean, no matter what you're looking at, right? I mean, there's people who are jerks. There's people who are just, completely uplifting and your day is made better just being around them. There are people that are top notch on top of their game. And then there's people who just struggle to be able to be competent to do their job. And yeah, I mean, you definitely get that with refereeing. For sure. And I know it's frustrating, right? Especially when, you're in a competitive environment and you want your either child or team or whatever role you have in, the athletic contest, um, to have a fair shake at it, right? And I mean, I've definitely been a part of games where I feel like refereeing has completely ruined the game for whatever reason, whether it was they were just off their game, incompetent, out to want to steal the show, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it definitely has felt that way from time to time, but I think for the most part, right, they're out there with good intentions and they're trying to do the right thing. But yeah, it definitely just kind of one of those moments where I think, like with everything, it just gives you pause, to kind of reflect on a little bit. And I really like what you said there too, because look, I mean, I know a couple of times in the soccer season when my son was playing JV soccer, they had some matches that were canceled because they couldn't get refs, and that sucks, right? Because as a kid, that's all you're looking forward to is playing, and then when you get, an event link cancellation, and you're going, the weather's nice, we got enough players, what's going on? And then the AD says, yeah, we couldn't secure refs for the match, and it's like, oh, that sucks. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think
for
that's
sure.
that's going to have to happen. That's going to have to happen more, before people start to realize that they just need to keep their mouths shut. I think I think ads know, and I think us as community members, if we really feel like it's a bad referee situation, you talk to the AD, right? They're the
Mhm.
ones who hire
Mhm.
the referees. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They can go in there and request, hey, don't have this guy come back, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
but us as moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, just sitting in the bleachers, it's so easy to say, but so hard to do. Just cheer your team.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you don't need to criticize, a 12-year-old boy because he missed a pass or he dribbled off his foot. You don't need to
Mhm.
criticize a referee. You know what I mean? Either, no matter how good they are, if it's not your job. Your job is there to support your team, your child, grandchild, whatever it is. And I think we've talked about that in the past, but that really is something that we really got to focus on is just being mentors to those kids, right? I think if our athletes hear us being encouraging, be supportive, that's how they're going to be. If they hear us complain about the refs, they're going to complain about the refs. So I think the only time I find that it's really appropriate to haze a ref is if you're in the student section.
Mm.
And as long as you're not like bad mouthing them and like really
Mhm.
calling them out. But if you're like, a fun chair to say something to the referee,
Yeah.
that builds the culture, that builds the atmosphere is fun. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I'm sure a referee will get really mad at it if they hear me saying that, but I think that's like I think you kind of expect that as a ref. You know what I mean? Have
Sure.
that
Oh,
fun
yeah.
interaction. And if you can't take that jabbing and do that, then maybe you shouldn't be a ref either because it's a hard job and people are going to criticize you right there on the spot. And 9 times out of 10, you know more than they do,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're still going to criticize you. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I, I think about that. And, one of the other things that I wanted to talk with you about is the fact that as we go around and we watch these games, it does seem to have really low attendance.
Mm.
Um, and I'm wondering if that is a part of it. If people don't want to go to games to hear other people just complain, because I know I've I've had to move seats or purposely not sit in different sections because I didn't want to hear that dad.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if that's a continual thing wherever you're going to the game at, I can see why people don't want to go. What are your thoughts, or what have you seen?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because I was thinking about that. I was at a game not too long ago where I looked around and I was like, "Man, there's nobody here." And so then I went home and watched the Friday night fast break or whatever they call it on channel 13 or 59, whatever. And you know how they'll go around to different schools and they'll shoot film and everything. And I'm looking, I'm like, there is nobody in that gym. Like, and I vividly remember the one matchup that I saw. It was Carmel against Noblesville, I think it was, or another Hamilton County school, and it was at Carmel, and it was empty, and it was a Friday night. And it's like, Mike, I know we've talked about this before. Okay, so I grew up in Pike Township, Pike, big basketball program, early '90s. I moved out to Brownsburg in '93, '94, and if I remember right, I think that team went to regionals or semi-state. And I'm telling you what, every single weekend that gym was packed. Pizza Hut the night before the night of the game, right before the game, everybody was there. You went to Pizza Hut, you went to the game. Now, listen, I know times have changed. There's so many more opportunities out there for entertainment, what to spend your time and money on. I know I might even be part of that problem because I'm a part of a streaming service, right? Tri-West Sports Network, where we stream the games. And I know people have told me I just stay at home and watch the game online. But man, it's like we need to support these young boys and girls and coaches, and just the sense of camaraderie with the community, right? I mean, it's like, where is that gone? And I don't know, like, I did a little bit of digging around online this week, and I tried to find, and I couldn't find anything. I did Google searches, I did AI searches. I couldn't find anything that had any hard data on how or if the IHSAA keeps attendance numbers for the individual schools that are a part of the IHSAA. I could find some stuff on the state tournament, but I couldn't find anything from like individual schools. But I would have to guess, if you talk to ADs around the state, they would say their numbers, even for their and probably even more so their bigger sports. If I go to swimming or wrestling, it's almost packed all the time. But football, yeah, kind of spotty. Basketball, kind of spotty. But it feels like those numbers are down.
Yeah. You also see, and I don't know when this started, and I don't know why it started, but all the advertising that you see at those games, banners, wherever you can find a spot on a gym, floor or on a football field, you see sponsorships now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that is just a way that they figured out that they can bring in some more money to upgrade the system, whatever's going on, pay the coaches a little better, get equipment, because all that stuff's getting more and more expensive. But I do wonder if that also has to do with the lack of attendance sometimes as well. I know schools like Tri-West, like football's your moneymaker. That's supposed to be like where the community comes and supports you. But if the football team is down and the community's not coming out, that's going to affect your whole sports program. So I do wonder how those ADs, if they're seeing that, if it's true. And then I kind of get upset, if I'm being honest, Justin, with like the IHSAA and how much they charge for sectionals and regionals and semi-state. And, and I know they have to pay for some stuff, but I mean, the parents are just want to come and watch your kids play a sectional championship game, and all of a sudden you're paying like $12, And I don't know if that's a lot. I'm stuck in the 90s, so I feel like that's a lot of money. And it's just, now I think a normal football game is $7. I don't have to pay because I'm the stats guy, so like I never really paid attention to that. Or I also have like a lifetime pass to all the Tri-West games. So I kind of just like show my pass and kind of move on with life. But it's interesting, and you want to show that support, but man, like it's tough to cognitively go, I want to go to a high school game, right? Especially, I don't know, I'm just going to throw something out there, which I don't know if it's true or not, but with this transfer portal, or whatever you want to call it in high school now, you're having students that are not from your community come in and play, and I think if you're like an old timer and you just like to come watch your game, I don't think that affects anybody. But if you're somebody who grew up in the community, you've watched your kid play, kindergarten flag football all the way up through middle school, and now all of a sudden in high school, he doesn't have a position because, you've got in 15 transfers from a different school, and you're like, this isn't the community kids playing now, And I don't know if it's probably a small percentage of people that feel that way and don't come to the games. But I'm sure it has a little bit to do with it. But then at the same time, maybe those 15 kids are bringing in a lot of people that wouldn't have came. So who knows?
Yeah, it could be. And I'll be honest with you too, Mike. I talked to somebody about this last night. We hosted Beach Grove for swimming, and it was really, really well attended. Now, again, most pools that I've been in, we went to Ben Davis last weekend. Speedways was a bandbox. It was real small pool, a seating area. Ours isn't huge, but it's decent size. I don't know what the numbers were, but there were a lot of people there. And one of the things that I said to a parent in the Tri-West swim program is I said, hey, we're new to swim this year. We didn't do club swimming. This is our first kind of foray into swimming. And the thing that has struck me, Mike, is how uplifting the environment is. If you ever get a chance to go to a swim meet, it is so encouraging. You'll never hear any kind of booing or anything like that. um, Everybody is cheering for everybody, both teams cheering for each other. And the cool thing about it too is like they're usually cheering for the ones who need the most encouragement, right? So the people that are last in their event, or in a relay or whatever, everybody's like uplifting and trying to cheer them on. And I think there's something to that, reason why more people want to go and catch a swim meet, because it is that environment. And like to your point of what you were saying earlier, where maybe you've had to move because of somebody, or look, I mean, I've seen in soccer this season, I saw 2 fans have to be removed from a match. This past Friday at the basketball game that I was at, a fan had to be asked to be removed. I've seen coaches over the last year get ejected from games in basketball. People maybe just kind of getting fed up with the negativity that some of those sports bring. And, to your point, it's just kind of like, hey, I got to have to pay this amount of money to get me and my family in. And then the kids are wanting the concessions, and that adds up. And so, yeah, I don't know. But I think definitely ADs it would be interesting to talk to Coach Knapp and some of the other ADs to find out, like, if that's on their radar of what they're trying to do in terms of promoting the programs within their, promoting the teams within their program, if they're having to try to come up with more creative ways to get people out. I have noticed a little bit more of an increase in specialty nights, right? Like grandparents night, teacher appreciation night, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's interesting to kind of see if maybe there's going to need to be a push. And then, the other thing too is that here recently, I know you and I talked about, maybe as we start to wrap up here, the NIL thing. You mentioned the transfer portal. I shared a story with you guys a couple weeks ago where I think Ohio became, what was it, the 45th state now to have NIL at the high school level. And then I saw a post from I think it's Hoosier Prep or somewhere on Facebook about, Indiana's so backwards, so far behind. Why haven't we adopted this yet? What will it look like? Blah, blah, blah. And so if you throw that aspect into it too, what does that do, right? In terms of, keeping that kind of focus on athletics and academics and building a community, what are your thoughts there? Any way in which you see how that equates in here?
I don't really know. I'm sure there's people out there who care enough to pay a kid money to play high school sports for them. I think NIL in high school, it's really about money for the program, right? So if you're Purdue or IU or Notre Dame, you're spending NIL money not just for the chance to win a championship, but you're also spending it because the more eyes that come in on your athletic program, the more money your program's going to have, right? So in high school, like, we're so poor and we're so, like, we don't have money. I don't know if it's an issue, but I'm sure if one township school, is willing to pay, $10,000 for a star basketball player to transfer to their school, I'm sure people can come up with some money to get that done, right? I don't know.
Let me throw this out there. Here's what I was thinking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to get your thoughts on this, because I think you'll have a really good take and perspective on this. Okay, take Miles McLaughlin, for example, right? He's at Knox High School. I know nothing about Knox. I mean, couldn't tell you much about the school, the state of their program, anything like that. But the kid is an absolute beast, right? Um, would you see take, for example, like a Bob Rohrman auto group out of Lafayette saying, hey, Miles, you're playing at Knox. Why don't you come to McCutcheon and we'll, hook you up. We'll get you a little bit of cash, some spending money. We'll put you in some commercials, blah, 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 whatever. Would that move the needle? Do you think that kind of is the level of what this could go to? Because I guess the thing that I was kind of trying to wrap my mind about what impact NIL would have is, would it poach athletes from rural / maybe suburban, like out, like almost like a Tri-West, I think would be the kind of like the cut line. But I'm thinking more of like if you had a stud out at like, Park Heritage or Clay City or, Shakamak or something like that, where they're just like, they would have a chance to be able to play 3A, 4A, 5A football. And they get to go to a more metropolitan area where there's some business that can throw some money their way. Maybe I was thinking about it the wrong way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I think if you get a kid that gets localized hype, Indiana hype, even national hype, like Miles was getting, because he was getting so close to the record, the national record. Sure, I can see, a car dealership giving him like a 1-year lease and in some commercials, and people could see that face with, and be like, oh man, Miles, I can see how I can drum up business or make you look good as a business by helping that kid out.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about like my kids, now, I don't live, in the poverty, so it's hard for me to kind of think about if somebody did live in poverty and one school system offered you, thousands of dollars to go play for them instead of your local high school, how would that move the needle on you and your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think like you do that, right? You help your family out. You make sure food's on the table. I can see that happening. When it comes to get the cough button there, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. When it comes to like actually poaching somebody to go to a bigger school, I think you're still looking to get a Division I scholarship, and so that kid is going to be looking at schools of going, what's going to get me the best opportunity to get seen by a college? I don't know if money is going to make a big difference there, because they're still looking at like that next big paycheck, which would be, Division I college football paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
But like if we hit home and we're talking about Jack Sorgi, right?
Mm-hmm.
4-star or whatever caliber quarterback he is, but he's committed to Louisville. Now, would it surprise me if Zionsville or Avon, Brownsburg? I mean, I know Brownsburg has a great quarterback now, but I'm saying, like, one of these localized schools, if they said, hey, Jack, come to our school, we'll pay you $25,000. What good would that be? One, like who cares about a state championship monetarily? You know what I mean? Like Zionsville's not going to improve financially by winning the state championship and paying him $25,000. The Jack doesn't have a face or name recognition to be worth that kind of money for any company to have him on. You see what I'm saying here? Like, if you really have to move the needle to get someone to come to your school, you're going to have to pay them, I would assume, a good amount of money, because I don't think $2,000 is going to make a kid decide to go to Carmel or Southeastern, right? It's going to have to be something worth it. But then at the same time, is it going to be worth it just to get a kid, monetarily going to help your school out to win a state championship? Is that going to be enough to make up for that difference? See what I'm
Yeah,
saying here?
yeah,
I don't,
no, I do. Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's a two-tiered thing here that probably will need to be fleshed out if it gets to this point. And we may be looking at this thing. I may be looking at this thing completely wrong. I was just kind of thinking about like how this would logistically impact, you know, the bigger landscape of IHSA athletics. And obviously, your big sports are going to feel it the most, right? I'm sure there might be, and I think you and I talked about this, a stud swimmer at, Center Grove who says, hey, if I go up to Carmel, whereas I was, the number one swimmer in my, in what I swam at Center Grove, now I'm going to be number three, but I'm going to be on a state championship team. I'm going to get more recognition, more eyeballs on me. And I think that's the thing that I was thinking about. So one, I think that there's still going to be some schools that have that name brand power that are going to be able to attract athletes just based off of that, regardless of NIL. But here's the thing that I'm wondering, kind of like where the impact might be on it. Okay, so here's my question. Miles obviously had the career that he had at Knox. Does he have that if he's playing at Penn? Does he have that if he's playing at, some other, Fort Wayne, Bishop Luers? If he's playing at, Lawrence Central, Warren Central, right? So I think that's the thing too, because he's like, he's going to go to Morehead State, right? I think that's where he committed, right? Morehead State. Why? Right? I think that's a fair question to say. The kid was toward the top of the all-time rushing leader list in the nation, and he's going to Morehead State. So, obviously, you can say the metrics are what they are, and I think that's a fair question to say is, would that translate into, being able to produce at the level that he was producing at Knox at a higher level of football? Because I think from his perspective and from any athlete's perspective, if they are quote unquote studs in lower like 1A, 2A football, they have to say, and look, we see this all the time, right? With JUCO or NAIA, kids who go to play for a year or two, prove themselves, prove to coaches, and then they make that jump. Or a kid used to be like back in the day would go to a mid-major, right? And then shine and then try transfer to like a Big Ten school, right? And then the proof was in the pudding. You would see, hey, that kid could play, or you know what, they were a stud at that level, but that's it, right? They were too slow, not big enough, not strong enough, whatever, right? Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, so that's just kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think most realistic point would be like you're only going to recruit a kid if you feel like it's going to help you win a state in high school. Mm-hmm. Whereas in college, yeah, you want the championship, but it's also going to get more eyes on your program, and you're talking a multi-billion-dollar business. Whereas, mm-hmm. The only multi-billion-dollar business is probably Carmel swimming. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see, how it's implemented. I haven't studied it well enough to see at the high school level with the individual states. Like I said, I think all but 5 have adopted it at this point. It sounds like it's been a big nothing burger from what I've read from various different people in different states. Like it's more of a hype thing than it is anything else. But I think it's just kind of like the feel of like, we're paying high schoolers to play in, aren't they student athletes, and shouldn't they maintain that level of amateur status still? There's still all that people still fight with the collegiate side, and I think it just kind of gets more amplified and feels more dirty, for lack of a better phrase, when you start applying it to high school kids, and the fairness of it and equity in it and that kind of thing too. I think there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and it'd be interesting to see how that all would affect and shake out there. So, all right, Mike, well, what do you think? You want to put a bow on this one?
Yeah, man, I appreciate the conversation. It was a good one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, what we'll try to bring to you guys each and every week is just bring a couple topics. And like I said, we've got some things on our mind that we're more than happy to talk about. But if there's certainly something that is on your mind, feel free to shoot it over to us. You can always reach us on our email, HoosierLegendsPodcast@gmail.com. You can always leave feedback for us too, comments, suggestions, share our content, let everybody know what we're up to and what we're doing. And hopefully, again, you appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys for the support. So thank you so much. And we will catch you again next week for another episode of the Hoosier Legends Weekly Podcast.